march of empty shells. They had been walking for 3 days now. Geneva was left behind, a dead concrete termite mound from which hundreds of thousands of cognitive refugees fled in panic. The road leading south toward the foot of the Alps was littered with discarded belongings. People threw away expensive clothes, gadgets, and now useless plastic cards. Ian Ward walked with his head low. Every few kilometers, his biological memory played phantom tricks on him. He felt as though a green water station sign was about to light up by the roadside, or the membrane would helpfully calculate the time remaining until their next rest. But his temple remained cold, and reality was gray and ruthless. Lisa walked beside him. Her steps were uneven. Deprived of the constant replenishment of artificial dopamine impulses, her nervous system was undergoing a brutal crash. A world without digital filters seemed infinitely ugly to her, and physical fatigue felt like unbearable torture.
My legs, they won't obey me. The membrane always turned off the feeling of pain when I walked long distances.
Your body's fine, Lisa. Pain is just a signal from nerve endings. It is not a malfunction. It is information. Your brain must learn to process it on its own without dampeners. Take 5 minutes to rest.
Ian squatted down beside them. He looked at his palms, covered in the first watery blisters of his life, caused by the straps of his heavy backpack.
Christian, what happened to those who stayed in the distribution hubs? To Mark Kyle and the other architects?
If the implants didn't burn their brains out when the network crashed, they are in the same position we are, the old man replied, checking an old paper map. Or even worse, the higher the level of integration with the machine, the more terrifying the mental blow when it disconnects. The architects knew the structure of the nexus, but they didn't know how to grow a stalk of wheat or start a fire without a laser spark.
By evening, the sky grew heavy with leaden clouds, and a fine, piercingly cold rain began to fall. Christian led the group off the open highway and into the forest, where the dilapidated shelter of an old sawmill, abandoned back in the 20s, could be seen among the rocks. Ian and Lisa scrambled under the overhang, shivering from the dampness. Their biological thermoregulators were working at their limit.
We need a fire. Ian, gather some dry wood chips under the roof. Lisa, find some birch bark or dry moss.
The two young people looked at each other. For them, making a fire had always meant speaking a voice command in a smart home, or touching a sensor panel in a picnic area. Ian hesitantly pulled a half-rotten piece of board from a pile.
No, Ian, that's wet wood. It will only smolder and smoke. Christian stopped him patiently. He sat down on the dirt floor, pulled a battered copy of the Survival Encyclopedia published in 2012 from his backpack, and opened it to the right page. Look here, look with your eyes. Don't expect the knowledge to just jump into your head. Read the lines.
Ian leaned over the book. The letters formed words slowly with great effort. His brain, accustomed to the instant perception of AI visual images, rebelled against linear reading.
For quick ignition, use the inner layers of dry wood by splitting the log lengthwise. Split it. But we don't have an axe, Ian said at a loss. Use a sharp stone and a heavy branch as a mallet, the old man prompted. Use logic, Ian. The machine isn't thinking for you anymore. Your frontal lobe has to work.
Meanwhile, Lisa brought a handful of wet grass. Christian sighed, took her hand and pressed it against the grass.
Feel it with your fingers. It's wet. Water won't let the fire catch. Look for what rustles and snaps with a click. Explore the world through touch, Lisa. That is real knowledge, not renting terabytes.
The next hour turned into a battle for the survival of the mind. Ian, rubbing his fingers raw until they bled, split the old board with a sharp flint fragment. Lisa, crawling on her knees under the shelter, searched for dry wood dust. When a small pile of dry material was gathered, Christian handed Ian a match.
Just one attempt, Ian. Strike it against the box. Not too hard, but with confidence. Shield the flame from the wind with your palm. Ian took the tiny wooden stick with the gray head. In his eyes stood genuine fear. The fear of making a mistake, something the AI had never punished him for, simply correcting it on the fly. He struck it. The match snapped.
A second strike, and a tiny, piercingly bright light flared up. Ian froze, afraid to breathe. He carefully brought the match to the tinder Lisa had gathered. A thin wisp of smoke curled upward, and then a tiny tongue of flame licked the dry wood. Lisa gasped softly and threw in a thin splinter. 10 minutes later, a real living fire was crackling merrily under the shelter. Its heat hit the faces of the young people, and this warmth was not a soft dopamine impulse from the membrane. It was the physical result of their own hard labor. Ian stared at the fire, and for the first time in 3 days, a faint, meaningful smile appeared on his face. I did it, he whispered. By myself, without the network.